George Parrott, the missions director here at Morning Star CM Missions, and we're blessed to have our missionaries in Nicaragua here with us today, Preston and Sandra Barnum. And greetings, folks, and welcome. It's great to see you again. We haven't seen each other in a few years, and it's exciting how you've stepped out in faith and God has led you by His Holy Spirit. And we're really beginning to hear reports and testimonies of doors opening up and great favor and opportunities and a clearer focus and vision of what the Lord has you doing down there. So share a little bit about what it was like in the beginning and how it compares to now and kind of the path to get to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, our first trip down there was a vacation, and the Lord just absolutely showed up about the third day. And we were on the beach, and it was just like I'm talking with you. And He invited me on an adventure. And He said, well, the adventure was, it was basically a discipleship. He said to go deeper in me and to find others that wanted the same adventure. But what really I'll never forget is, because I'd always thought of responding to God's call as almost being punitive. You know, pick up your cross, follow me, negative. This is going to be something that, is going to be hard to do. But what He followed with was, He said, you don't have to do this. He said, and if you don't, I was in business for myself. He said, you'll have a great business. He said, you'll have a great life. You'll have your house, that you'll finish the house, and it'll be great. You don't have to do this, but I'll never forget, like a twinkle in His eye, He said, but you're going to miss the adventure.
Ooh.
And I love adventure. I didn't know quite what adventure it would be, but when we got back from that trip, we just looked at each other, what are we doing? Nothing about our life made sense anymore. And we were back in 6 weeks. We went back and had a house rented, and we just started making trips right away and just started making all the preparations to get rid of everything and get down there.
Mm-hmm. So you sold all your belongings, your house, and you left your children and family behind. Mm-hmm. And so, Sandra, share with us a bit about your relations with your kids and how that went in the beginning.
Well, our kids are older. In fact, we just celebrated our oldest daughter's 48th birthday yesterday, which was also her spiritual birthday too. So, but our kids are everything to us. But they're older. They have children of their own, and they have lives of their own. And we were close, but it wasn't that relationship where they're tied to our hips. So we thought we had their blessing. And they'd known for 2 years that we were going to prepare to go. But when it came time to go, it was like they just shut the door on their relationship with us. And we were traveling by car down to Fort Lauderdale to fly out, and I got a very disturbing phone call. And it left me in just a heap of tears. And we found out that 3 of our children were not on board. And I wanted to turn around and go back and try and smooth things out. And Preston said, well, let's just go on down there. We can call them, because we have a phone down there, and we can just call and straighten everything out. And it didn't happen. So, right there, as emotional as I was, I should have dialed in right away that, if this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing, naturally the enemy would be in there, trying to meddle in everything. Mm-hmm. And it was very, very difficult. We went through many years of quiet with our children. But, in time, this is being healed. But also the fact that what I want to impress upon people is the enemy's going to do everything possible to stop you in what God has called you to do. And, we've dealt with a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, but we also had the vision. And there was also some really mountaintop moments in our ministry that kept us moving forward. And we just, kept turning it over to God, hoping He would, heal our children's hearts so that we could do our work. And we're in what I call our next phase of ministry. We're in a new season. We're beginning our 6th year, so I call it the next 5 years. And there are some doors that are being opened that would never have been if we'd have given up prematurely.
Right. Awesome.
I think the key to what she's talking about is your faith and being faithful. And it's just doing, like, with all this was going on, okay, what can we do? Let's get on the plane. What's the next thing to do? You just know, you just follow what you have to do, you do the next thing.
Right.
And they teach, I think in the military they say that courage is not something that you have great courage and then you you become brave and do courageous acts. It's doing what you know you have to do, and the courage comes while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same way for faith.
Yeah.
You don't get a great faith. You don't wait to have great faith to do something.
Right.
You do what you see in front of you, what God's telling you to do right now, and as you're doing that, the faith comes.
Right. The Bible says that Jesus is a lamp unto our feet.
Mm-hmm.
We trust him step by step. He doesn't say he's a beacon or a fog light.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lamp, and we have to trust him day by day, step by step. So, Preston, you were sharing earlier about these two villages, Valparaiso and the other town, and the land that's available in between, and how God has begun to give you strategy for incorporating the Seven Mountain Mandate and bringing transformation to individuals, the communities, and that whole region.
Right. Yeah, everything we do is about discipleship. You know, when the Lord gave me that invitation, I went, because I had never been a missionary, never been on a mission trip. So I went home and I thought, well, let me see what the Great Commission is. And I always thought it was preach the gospel, but what's really making disciples.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we do is about discipleship. And I see the kingdom as being for everyday life. You know, God speaks into all areas of life. So if you're, for instance, if you're studying to be a doctor, the biology you're studying was created by God. If you're studying engineering, the physical laws you're studying are studying God. You're drawing closer to God and learning about God by studying those areas. And as you align with your calling, that's when the blessings really start to flow. Like right now, there are some hard times, but we're lined up with our calling, and it's just it's not hard work. It's fun, you know. We both would remark early on, and still do. It's, you know, we don't have to do this. Like Jesus told me,
Right.
You don't have to do this. We get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to. What we're doing in those villages is there's a lot of poverty, and we're called, first of all, we're called the young men. There's a lot of missions are done, at least in Nicaragua, are to women and children in the form of feeding programs, which is good, but it's not really sustainable because they're going to be hungry tomorrow.
Right.
If we can get the young men to discover their identity and accept their calling and become productive young men of God, leaders in their families, churches, and communities, that will bring transformation to that nation. That will solve the problems of the women. That will solve the problems of the children. So from the poverty aspect, all their problems can be solved with a job. They were, as I was telling you, most of the villages in that area, in that region, were relocated from Hurricane Mitch. So they went from being farmers, being productive, to just giving a little plot of ground that they can't farm, and there's no jobs. So if we can uncover the gifts of the different young men, help them to develop them, equip them, and then empower them to start their own businesses, then they start employing people. They start, like in this instance, a cabinet shop. The cabinet shop, we have to bring out hardware, so we'll bring out hardware in bulk and start a hardware store. That we have to bring out lumber, so we can bring out lumber and start a building supply. And as it grows, you know, we're partnering with other ministries there that are working with women, and they're teaching them skills that together could create a shopping destination that will transform that whole region. And what we're doing, you know, I love what Rick Joyner says about father reproduces. And, you know, men are called to be spiritual fathers.
Right.
That means we need to be reproducing. So what we're wanting to do is something that we're trying to build a strong foundation. Discipleship's a process. And we aren't down there for 2 years. We're not down there for 5 years. We're down there for the rest of our lives. That's where we will die, is in Nicaragua. And what we want to do is build a strong foundation, whether it grows exponentially or just grows a little bit. We want to build a solid foundation and raise up the Nicaraguans with those same values and those same principles, so it will continue and it will expand, and it will be a multi-generational
Great.
impact.
That's exciting what the Lord's doing there. So, Preston, share a little bit about this piece of land, about how big it is and how much it's available for.
There's a piece of land that connects the two villages, and it's strategic because it's almost all frontage, which is ideal for a strip center type of usage. And it's about 12 acres, and it's somewhere, we're working on the price now, between $12,000 to $24,000. 24 is a high price. I've recently gotten the price maybe as low as 12,000. Mm-hmm. It has power, 3-phase power, already there with a transformer. There's a well on the property. They've just paved the road, which it really gives it good access to going in there. And what I'd like to do is develop a strip center. Then the businesses that would be their businesses, but they would pay rent. And then the rent would go to provide like a soccer field. Right now the kids just play out in the gravel field. Right. A soccer field, maybe some street lights in the village, start doing it. The profit from the center would be turned into improvements in the villages.
Wow, that's great.
What I'm trying to do is develop a model that then, because this is a strategic location, it's surrounded it's several thousand, maybe as many as 6,000 people in that region, in these villages that would impact. And to find other strategic villages and repeat the same process.
Awesome.
And I think it's a model that will work in other countries as well.
Really? Because what we strive for in many countries is to end systemic poverty, to bring in community development concepts and ideas. And one of our friends that does a lot of work in Asia, quoted that old saying, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, and he'll fish for a lifetime. And our friend says, we want to teach him how to own the fish farm.
Yes.
And so that they can really learn the sound biblical business principles that will not only take care of their own family, but provide jobs, sustainability, and biblical prosperity for the whole community and the region.
Well, you mentioned sound business principles. We're going slow, and everything we do we realize is a process. Mm-hmm. I think again, Rick, I love Rick. He's so wise. Yeah. But he says anything that's done too quickly usually doesn't have much significance.
Right.
So I try to remember that and not get discouraged. But we're building these businesses slow because I want these guys. We will match in some cases. We match and maybe give a little assistance, but most of it is things that they're generating.
Right.
I put my labor into it. I put my time. I put my knowledge into it to help them. But if they don't build a business, they won't have the wisdom to keep it.
That's right.
And I've seen, at least in Nicaragua, when things are given to them, and it gets hard, they just walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. So we encourage our friends and partners to pray about bringing and joining a team down to Nicaragua to visit with Preston and Sandra. And you can contact the missions office. Our number and email address will be on the bottom of the screen. You can contact us, an easy way to learn more about going to see what the Lord is doing through Preston and Sandra Barnum's ministry in Nicaragua. And we'll be posting this on their website, their webpage. And we encourage you to pray about if the Lord would have you to sow into helping buy this land, that the cost for about 12 acres is $12,000 to $24,000, and just pray about sowing into that, where it will bless many for generations to come. And they're setting up a proper oversight and supervision with wise stewardship over this land, so that it will really be done with kingdom principles, and all the glory goes to God. And you can contact us if you have questions. Call me personally, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have as the Lord is showing you to sow into this great soil down in Nicaragua through Preston and Sandra.